Bob the Builder, or Robert the Contractor, is the model workman that those in the trade should aspire to. He's tireless, hasn't wrought the ire of the taxman, has no tallywhacker's finger drawn into the rear of his dirty white van, he's never hooted in an unprofessional manner at passing young women, and he is a gentleman of a kind and genteel nature. While I'll give you that he has the advantage of subservient sentient plant machinery that follow his every word, he should still be seen as a role model for every bricky, hod carrier and plasterer in the land. And preschool children love that wide-headed workman too, thanks to his immensely popular television show that debuted on CBBC during April 1999, courtesy of Hit Entertainment. Bob was birthed out of the brain juices of one Keith Chapman, a Norfolk-born Henson Company alum. Keith, who also created fellow toy shop shelf botherers Paw Patrol, came up with the idea while working as a freelance advertising art director. He spotted a JCB and imagined it with cartoon eyes, which would eventually become the character of Scoop. The rest of the residents of Bobsville soon followed in his mind's eye. The series utilised stop-motion animation for both the original and follow-up series, Project Build It, but since 2010, Bob and his crew have been rendered in CGI. The original series, of course, featured the Boone and Men Behaving Badly actor Neil Morrissey as the larynx of the titular handyman, and it had quite the eclectic list of guests and supporting cast with John Motson, June Whitfield, Richard Bryars, Sue Barker, Ulrika Johnson, Elton John and Noddy Holder turning up to interact with Mr. The Builder and his mechanical menagerie. Bob's continued success is undeniable. His television venture is shown in 30 countries, and who can forget that he is also a former pop star, topping the Christmas singles chart when that was still a thing that mattered back in the year 2000. What a wild top 5 that is, by the way. Being a marketable marionette manly man, Bob has been featured in various video games, all of which were released in the peak of his fame in the early to mid-2000s. What a time he had back then, with all that wealth and money, no doubt leaving British television starlets' faces looking like a plaster of radio. The one we're looking at here is his debut effort, released in 2001 courtesy of THQ. It was programmed by UK codesmith Steel Monkeys, who closed in 2015. This title was also released a little later as a double pack with the video game of another BBC children's property, that being the pre-Cro-Magnon simian species of mischievous roustabouts otherwise known as the Tweenies. Is that a video for another day? Possibly. It depends how many more of these preschool and late-stage PlayStation 1 educational games I can take. I've done too many. After the As Seen on TV intro, we're taken to the office of Bob's company, which almost certainly sees 100% of the jobs he's done committed to the Inland Revenue. Oh yes, sir-ee. This here office acts as the hub of the game, with the various work area ephemera, each of them acting as its own different scenario-based game, with every one of them complete with a specially filmed intro and resolution when you finish those said games. At this point, I presume that Wendy's computer, which has the rather on-brand name of Can We Build It, well, I thought that would be the main game, so I avoided it while I looked at the other options, which, as I suspected, were indeed all mini-games. Each mode will have a different difficulty level, but please remember that these are proportionally staggered according to the dexterity and response time of your average under 5-year-old, so don't set it to the hardest level and go expecting edutainment Dark Souls. Even on hard, simplest of yokel idiot adults will have as much difficulty with it as operating the door to a fridge. Each of these games will involve one or more of the characters indulging in some manner of building or non-building related task, all of which are really short, and some of which don't even need you to achieve any sort of target. Take Wendy's surprise birthday, for example. This part has 2 tasks, decorating a cake and having a dance-off. There's no Guitar Hero style rhythm action here. You just press up, down, left and right until the music stops. There's no punishment, there's no encouragement to get it right. You can do it however you like. You can have the dancing ability of a dad, and Wendy's naked bum will still be on the photocopier at the close of evening, with Bob sorting out her paper jam. As for the cake section, there was an opportunity, and yes, I took it. Other games, though, are more target-based. Spud, the naughty scarecrow, has to live up to his nomenclature and to terrify the local avian life away from the seeds, which he does by jumping towards them in a horrifying manner, most uncommon amongst immobile straw-based sentries. Rolly, the steamroller, must flatten air bubbles in concrete. Are we sure that concrete gets air bubbles? Lofty, the crane, has to smash down a bridge, and Dizzy and Travis indulge themselves by having a race that has laps but only seems to go in one direction, thus breaking physics. Multitasking all-round handy chap Bob has to deal with some dodgy plumbing by matching the right-shaped pipe with the correct-shaped hole. All a very easy fare, especially the extremely fillery Finding Pilchard the cat sections which accompany most of the adventures. It's a bright blue cat and is immediately visible to any creature with anything even vaguely resembling eyes. You could stick googly eyes on a naked mole rat and it would see Pilchard. That's how easy Pilchard is to see in this scene, even if he had no working knowledge of what a cat actually was. And this is on the hardest setting. Each one of the mini-games can be finished in less than a minute, and so with that in mind, I finally decided to take the plunge and I chose the Can We Build It category from that main menu. You know, the one in the central part of the screen that looks like it's going to be the main story. I was expecting to play those mini-games along that main overarching adventure, but there is no overarching adventure. It was just another pairing of mini-games equal to all the others. Now, I completely understand that this wouldn't be an issue to an age group who will merrily watch Frozen or even one of Bob's DVDs tens of times and not get bored with it. However, this game in total is 15 minutes worth of content. That's shorter than an honest builder's tea break. This is a low amount of content. To make matters worse for us PlayStation 1 owners, the PC version apparently has more levels in it, which will probably bolster up to 17 minutes instead. There surely was a way to make the stages multi-level, perhaps have Scoop race multiple vehicles, perhaps have multiple floors for Bob to plumb, getting slightly more complex each time. Even in the alternative software Spectrum games aimed at a similar age range, you know, things like the official Father Christmas game or Sooty and Sweep or Huxley Pig, there was a bit more meat on the bones compared to this. It's not just the paltry length of the game, it's the fact that it represents no challenge at all. It needs a little bit of challenge, however minor, and for the littlest of small folk. Okay, maybe not the ones that still poo their undercrackers, but on the whole, kids are quite smart. Now, the Bob the Builder game does get some things right. Those specially filmed level introduction snippets are a very nice polished touch, and all the characters are recognisably rendered, albeit not in any way that would ever stretch the PlayStation 1 in any way, shape or form. Ultimately, though, I cannot see a scenario where even the most obsessional of repeat playing children, I can't see how they wouldn't tire of this quite quickly. So to me, I'm afraid it's a botch job by a cowboy builder, and Bob fans will be best off with one of the later Windows, handheld or PlayStation 2 efforts. So that's a disappointment for Bob the Builder fans. I couldn't find anything in the way of journalistic reviews of Bob the Builder, Can We Fix It? However, there was this little comment from a GameSpot reader from 2017 who clearly wasn't a fan when he got this as a child. He said, "These are the most basic games like decorating a birthday cake or finding a cat. All of them are just awful to look at, and they all feel like they've been lazy copy and pasted onto a PlayStation disc from CBB's website." Now, I've used a little bit there of paraphrasing because he didn't write that sentence quite as cohesively as I've explained it, but I'm prone to the odd vocal gaffe, if you will, so I can't really complain. But next up, and well, she's got her knockers, but it's time we got our hands on one of Pamela Anderson's VIPs, namely the Game Boy Color game. That's a handful. Expect more uproarious breast-based innuendo when we reconvene in a few weeks. Until then, like, subscribe, and Kay, thanks, bye.